Okay, we'll see how this goes. My phone is now duct taped into my welding helmet. You're looking through the lens and peeking through a gun slit just over top. My voice is probably really loud because it is about 5 millimeters away from the phone. So I'm looking through a gun slit of the mask right above the phone. So let's see. So I apologize if this doesn't look the best, but I think it's going to work okay. It's a little green because it's looking through the whatever it is, shade 4 with the auto tint off. And we'll see what the phone does. I don't know if it's going to freak out or if it's going to work well. But basically what you do for this lap weld is you want to weld onto the bottom piece of sheet metal and just allow the weld as the pool grows to just grab onto the top. If you weld, like your instinct is just to weld right in the crack between the two, what happens is all the heat sucks into the top piece of metal and then you don't get any penetration down in the bottom, right? So I'll do this in a pull so you guys can hopefully see better. But basically what I'm going to do is weld on the bottom and then move, weld on the bottom and move, weld on the bottom and move. And it'll turn into a solid weld all the way across. And hopefully when it's done, the bottom will be a little alligator spine poking through of the penetration. But we'll see. So we'll do all the welds first and then we'll look at the penetration on the back and see how I did, okay? So here we go. Okay, and that is the stitch weld. I can already see some problems with it, but whatever, it is what it is. That's basically how you do it. So we'll put that one over there, and then we'll try the butt weld with the backer. Let's see what happens with this one. Okay, and I know this one needs more heat. So I'm going to turn it up a little bit, because that last setting was way too cold to make this happen. Okay, and this time I'm going to push, so the weld will be coming towards you. I should be welding down in the bottom and grabbing onto the top. Okay, looks okay. The penetration will tell all. Now we'll try the butt weld with no backer. Now, should I push this one or should I pull this one? I think I'll push it. Turn that back down to D so I don't blow through, hopefully. We'll see how this one goes. Looks okay, not too bad. Now I'll try the skip stitch one. I'm going to turn it back up a little bit for this guy. Now, the thing with this one is you're supposed to let it totally cool. So basically I do this one, and that one, and this one, and that one, and this one around to my quarter panel section, and then I come back after it's cooled, because this coupon's only like, I don't know, like 5 inches long. It's gonna build up heat. So if you're doing a small section, you would blow it with some compressed air in between, and that would cool it back down to room temperature again. I'm not going to do that because it would be very boring for you guys to watch, so I'm just going to weld it. So I'm going to go to this one, and that one, and this one, and that one. And it's like that stitch weld I did for the lap, but you're welding right down into the root gap, so you achieve penetration. And you want each little bead that you make, each stitch, to about overlap the previous one by about half. So just stick the wire right in the crack of the root gap, right in front of where that weld is, and it should cover it up about halfway. And back to the front. Burning back into the tip a little bit there. It's really getting too close. You want each stitch to be about the same size. When you get to the last one, you gotta hold it a little bit longer. So the very first weld is totally cooled now. So that very last stitch that closes it up, just hold it a little bit longer, and then it looks something like this. It's basically 1, 2, 3, it's like 4 welds that have all like joined each other at the end. Okay, and the last one is the plug weld. Everybody's settings are a little bit different. For me, for this one, I go even more hot again, but everybody does this a little bit differently in order to get the correct penetration. Now for plug welds, you start in the middle, you set your penetration, and then you go around in a little swirly circle to catch the top piece. So let's see. And that's the way I do them, because I found it better when I was doing collision. It made for a lot less grinding, and I get penetration a lot easier by welding at that very high voltage like that and low wire speed, which changes the MIG function from arc spray to globular. Which can be tricky. It can burn back very easily, and it can burn back into the tip very easily. But this is the way I sort of develop my technique. To get like a nice flat plug weld with excellent penetration. And you can see the MIG welder makes a totally different noise when it's doing this globular welding, compared to that arc spray that it was doing before. Oh, I just burned back into the tip. Oh, I'm okay. And there's the 6 plug welds, nice and flat. Yours will probably be taller than that. It takes quite a bit of practice before you can do them this flat and low, right? So I'll show you real quick the difference between the settings. So this is the plug weld function that I had it set to. So that's a very hot weld for globular welding. This is somewhere in the middle. Shows doing the hotter weld for the 3 pieces of metal. And then this is sort of like the butt weld, welding on 1 piece of metal. You can see on the last one is technically the correct settings for welding through 1 sheet of 20 gauge, and you can see that nice smooth buzz where it's like the welder is singing to you. That's a good arc spray buzz that's going on there, and we should have different penetration for each one, which is a little not true, because the first one would have the most penetration, but it's because the coupon was so cold when I did it that it doesn't have much, right? The other one is the most, so that was the one that was in the middle settings, and then the bottom one has the a little less, and that's because it's the heat was turned down a little more, right? Okay.